So it's very unlikely that God allowed an immortal soul. In fact, there is no immortal soul that comes out of the ground there. It's Samuel himself, who's seen as a god, an Elohim. But who knows? This could just be laid on by the demons as an imitation. That would be generally what I would say. The whole situation is very, very suspicious because Saul was very guilty of witchcraft, was he not? So that's the sort of thing I think we're seeing there. I don't know for sure that it really was Samuel. It could just be a fake Samuel to give the impression of the immortal soul.
For one thing, there's not a word here about immortal souls.
No,
I think
exactly.
That's really crucial to keep in mind. And we ought to also remember something else, that even if Samuel was called forth from the dead, that doesn't mean he was an immortal soul or had an immortal soul or any such thing. We have to remember that even in the New Testament, Jesus resurrected people in instances in his ministry who then died again. It's a little bit of an odd possibility, but I really think we can't dismiss that Samuel, in this case, he could have been, if you wanted to say that, and I'm not saying it would have to be this way, Samuel, in this case, could have been, Saul could have been resurrected and then to die again. I really think that probably it's just a visionary thing and not likely to have been literally him. But even if it was him, it doesn't say anything about immortal soul, and neither does it say anything about he would never die again or he had not died.
In my mind, this is very clearly a case of demonic impersonation. I don't believe this was an exception to God breaking the rule and bringing Samuel himself physically up from the grave. You've only got to read the story when we know that Saul, King Saul, could not see this Elohim. He had to work through the medium. So Samuel is not there physically. He's not there in the body. We read in verse 3 of the same chapter, Samuel was dead. And as in the whole of the Old Testament to this point, the dead are dead. They're unconscious. Samuel, even spiritually, there's no possibility of Samuel himself being there in a separate spiritual or soulish kind of existence. This whole notion that the whole expression that modern Christians use, that you have a spiritual death. The Bible knows of no such thing as a spiritual death. The Bible uses the word spiritual for many things like spiritual gifts, spiritual things, and so on, but never in relation to death. We're also told in 1 Chronicles 10 and 13 why Saul perished, because he consulted the medium. It's highly unlikely that God is going to, who's up until this point refused to communicate with Saul, it's highly unlikely that God himself breaks his own rule and brings a spirit of Samuel up to break his own practice at this point. Saul has been cut off from all communication with God, and the only communication he gets in this story is through a necromancer, which God has clearly forbidden. I therefore conclude this is a clear case of demonic impersonation and through the medium of the witch at Endor.